Welcome back to Simple Physique. The scale is one of the many ways that you can track your fat loss journey. You probably already know that. And for some, it can be the source of fear, anxiety, and eating disorders, understandably so, because if you're not familiar with the weight fluctuations that happen in the body day by day or even hour by hour, the scale can become a total misrepresentation of your true body weight and your fat loss progress, possibly setting you back. I'm going to explain how often you should be weighing yourself for the most accurate body weight and fat loss readings. I'm also going to explain why, so you're best prepared to get the most out of your scale. And if you've encountered fear and anxiety from the scale in the past, hopefully this video can set you on a path to overcome those feelings. Speaking of fear and anxiety, that's what happens to me when you don't like and subscribe to my channel here. So if you want to prevent that from happening, it'd really help me out if you went ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons so I'm mentally stable enough to continue providing this free content. Okay, so one of the biggest things you must understand is that the body is in a constant state of flux, meaning that it never really weighs the same amount consistently. We're all familiar with the term water weight. Water is stored all over the body, including the inside of the muscles and underneath the skin. Liquids are constantly being absorbed by what we drink and released when we sweat and urinate. This water weight fluctuation can easily be 5 pounds or more in a single day. Being dehydrated, stressed, or consuming a lot of high sodium foods will make your body more likely to hold on to more water. So knowing this is an important factor when it comes to understanding the scale. The food we eat, of course, is going to have an effect on the scale as well. That's why it's always best to weigh yourself on an empty stomach. I mean, if you go and eat 8 ounces of meat, let's say, which is half a pound, then you go and weigh yourself right afterward, then of course, the scale will reflect that you are half a pound heavier. This does not mean that extra half a pound will turn into half a pound of fat. The body will digest and process that food, and as long as you're in a calorie deficit, it will use that half a pound of food as energy. Also, it is worth noting that weighing yourself the morning after a big evening meal, or let's say after an all-out cheat day, isn't the best idea. If you went to town on a bunch of pizza or something heavy with high sodium content the night before, then the next morning you still will likely have a bunch of food being digested, and you're probably also holding onto a ton of extra water due to that high sodium content. If I'm gonna plan a cheat, I'll usually make sure to weigh in the morning before I unleash the beast on that delicious goodness. So as a general rule of thumb, I recommend a weekly weigh-in. This is what I tend to practice myself simply because I choose to track my progress on a weekly basis, which is what I find works best for consistent results and keeping things, well, on track. You can pick any day you want. My weigh-in days are Sunday mornings. The day of the week isn't important. What's important here is that you weigh yourself at the same time on the same day every week. First thing in the morning before you've had anything to eat or drink, and after you've gone to the bathroom if possible. Now, even if you practice all of this perfectly, the scale is still not always going to be consistent and accurate. If you happen to not get great sleep the night before a weigh-in, or you didn't hydrate as much, or you took in a little extra salt than you normally do, the scale can easily show that you didn't lose any weight that week, when in actuality, you lost a full pound of fat. I know, this can seem crazy confusing, and when that kind of thing happens to you, and it likely will at some point, it's especially frustrating. So try and look at the big picture of your weight loss goal, and remember that the body is in a constant state of flux. Your weight doesn't go down in a straight linear line, but in these sort of peaks and valleys, with the overall trend being a downward slope. That is the most important thing you can understand about using the scale accurately. Understanding that as long as your weight has an overall downward trend, on average, over the course of weeks, you are right on track. Only when your weight loss has consistently come to a halt over the course of a couple weeks will you want to maybe readjust your calorie intake or up your cardio. This is all assuming you've been tracking your calories in the first place. Honestly, using the scale on a regular basis without tracking calories or having some sort of plan is a recipe for mental disaster and a destructive relationship with food and the scale. But if you're tracking and sticking to your plan most of the time, you can feel confident knowing that if you happen to enjoy yourself a little extra one day, you don't need to starve yourself the next just because the scale shows a few extra pounds higher than it did the day before. I assure you, it will return to baseline within a couple of days of normal eating, and with that consistent calorie deficit, we'll continue that downward trend. Thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.